be
7 o'clock.
it's nice to be back.
Good to have you, Russ.
We got business tonight. I'm going to open the joint meeting between the Franklin Township trustees and the city of Kent. The purpose is the Standing Rock Cemetery. With the clerk, please call the roll.
To get it on there.
Okay. That's right.
Mr. Amrine,
Here.
Mr. De Leon,
Here.
Mr. Ferrara,
Here.
Mr. Kuhar,
Here.
Ms. Rosenberg,
Here.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish,
Here.
Mr. Sidoti,
Here.
Mr. Turner,
Here.
Ms. Wallach,
Here.
Mr. Benjamin,
Here.
Ms. Hanna,
Here.
Mr. Swan. I just admitted him.
Anybody else hearing a strange sound?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's when you talk, Amy.
Is it me?
Think so.
I think so.
No, I got it when you,
It's
and when I'm talking.
That seems like when anyone talks.
Well, we'll have to bear with it.
Try
All right.
that.
Are you done, Amy?
We have Mr. Swan.
Here.
Okay, all are present.
All right, thank you. We have 3 items to talk about. The first one is, and Mr. Lux called, he said he can't be present in the meeting. So he's the only one that applied for the council at large position. So we'll need a motion to appoint him if that's,
I'll move. I'll second.
all right, Mike second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Okay, Mr. Lux's name will be put in draft number 2021-43. All right, the next item we need to talk about, if there's any discussion, is draft number 2021-42, and that's about the millage. Is there any discussion about the millage?
Is Jean Crest available?
I
She's not on?
don't see her.
Yeah, she's not on the meeting.
Okay. If I could discuss just for a moment, won't take very long. We've asked for an increase in the millage simply because taking a look at the job that's being done at the cemetery, and I think everyone who goes there sees that they're proud of it. And then taking a look at the average rate that our cemetery workers make, which is the average in Ohio is $15 or $16 an hour, and that's $4 below a national average for cemeteries. So when we took a look at where our guys are, they are near the poverty level, and we are having, I think you all got a statement with the reasons that we're looking at a modest increase, since we haven't really done that since 2013. I had a conversation with Brett Benz, the Portage County prosecutor, over the last couple days, and he was going to look into for me the ability to use any money from the CARES Act. Is that a possibility to defray some of the cost from both of the township and the city? Got back to me today and said that he has not seen anything of people using that. He doesn't know that it's not available, but people haven't used it for that. They've used it for other things. And then I asked if there's a chance, if we have already used our portion of the CARES Act for the different things. I mean, that was a while ago, that if there was a second round, could we take a look at doing that? And he said it's a possibility if there's a second round to it, that's an option that we could do. And we would find out in an audit whether they accept it. But I believe the people on the cemetery board are very proud of the guys that we have working there. They've been there a long time. And a lot of their work is on Saturdays. That's when the funerals are. So I would really ask you to consider the raising of 0.2 on the mill levy to not only for the purpose of increased salaries, but we're at a stage where we have roads, we have water lines, we constantly have trees. The last one we had taken out, and Mike, you can back me up on this, was around $2,500 to take out. Now, this isn't something that our guys can do. We're talking about some big trees and we get in cranes, but if they fall, they're going to do more than $2,500 worth of damage. Those are just some of the things that we've taken into account in trying to raise the millage on that for the long-term and the short-term purposes. Mike, you want to add to that?
I was just gonna say, I voted to put this onto the ballot because I think there is a need there, but I'm sort of stuck in the middle because I see both sides. You know, I know the city's having problems with money also, but I do think that it's warranted to put some money into that cemetery because the roads are bad. It's going to need done sooner or later. You know what I'm saying? But it is definitely a need. That's why I put it, move forward to this.
Good. And I don't think it's going to get less expensive as we go.
No. We do pinch pennies there. I can't tell you how, if anybody knows Roger Donnell, he bought lawnmowers probably 20 years ago, and he still has them in the boxes up above, and he pulls one out every year and they take care, that's how he buys stuff and keeps it and takes care of it. So, and that's with all the equipment there. And
he just rebuilt the clutch.
Yeah. He does all this stuff by himself. He doesn't have anybody. So as I said, that we're very frugal. So
Gary, it probably hasn't changed much since you were there.
No, the Dossel family is one of a kind, and they're very dedicated people. I understand that. So, Heidi, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I do. What is the process? I heard you say about putting it on the ballot. Is that what we have to do?
Bring it to this.
Bring it to the board meeting.
bring it into the board meeting.
So we vote on this.
We vote,
right.
Taxpayers do not.
Right.
This is a tax we can increase.
Yes.
So we have to be very mindful of that.
Understand that. And
Does
what
anybody
we've been.
actually have the dollar amount what that 70 mills would bring in from the city and township that
Yeah.
you're asking?
Well, that's another question I would have is for $100,000 house, what would that cost?
I don't think that's the way it's done. Ron, did you remember how that was done?
Yeah, how much would that be?
I do. So how the calculation is prepared is you take the total assessed value for the city of Kent, and then we multiply that, we actually divide that by 1,000 and then multiply that by the millage percentage. So we have right here 0.5. In 2020, we contributed almost $210,000 to the cemetery. So Franklin Township would have to do the same thing, take their total millage, divide that by 1,000, multiply it by the 0.5 or the 0.6 or 0.7, however you want to increase this going forward.
So let me get back to the question is that, so we're not getting more funding from the taxpayers. We're just providing more of our already existing.
Correct.
Yeah, toward toward this. So yes, it does bite into our budget. So
Correct. And just to give you an idea, that's a 40% increase. And that's asking us for almost an additional $85,000. And if our assessed value of our properties goes up, because 2021 is going to be the next year for our reevaluation period, if the county comes out and does a reevaluation. So when the assessed valuations go up, so does the amount that we have to contribute to the cemetery right from the get-go, not even including the percentage increase.
but it doesn't necessarily mean that we take in more.
Correct. I mean, we will, if the assessed value goes up, the city of Kent will also then, get additional dollars on their property taxes. But this is not being egged on to the city residents. This is something that just comes right out of our funding.
Right, so it's not earmarked for.
No.
Those taxes are not necessarily earmarked for the cemetery. We have to do that.
Correct. And the last time there was an increase in the millage in 2017 that went into effect in 2018.
Mhm.
Was that millage for the cemetery or just general
Just-
millage?
Just the cemetery, for the cemetery, increase in cemetery contributions.
Go ahead, John Kerr.
So I'm looking at the hourly wages and that the increases and those look reasonable. What didn't look reasonable to me was the total picture of that 40% increase. And there's some way that we can meet those wage increases, but not jump everything up 40% is, I guess, what my question would be.
Well, the last time that we did raise it, it went up 0.1, and what we're asking for now is 0.2. I'm sure that we could, we do the same thing as the city, is we pull it and we earmark it for the cemetery, and that would raise ours by around $35,000 more that we would give. And we'd be fine to even take a look at going up at least 1. If we can't go 2, I'd go 0.1. If this is our discussion, instead of going to 0.7 mils, go to 0.6. At least it's something in the right direction. If the note was read, even with COVID, the amount of burials has remained constant. The difference being that there have been a lot more cremations, which doesn't bring in as much money for us as there are full burials. But we're holding steady, and like I say, we're doing what we think. Yeah, Raj?
Maybe we could compromise the increase and raise the price of the cremations too.
Well, we the rates, I'm trying to look at my paper here. We haven't raised rates since 2013, and that is also a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
And possibly with a 0.1 and raising of our rates, that, we could make that work.
All right, John, are you finished?
Yes.
Mike's got his hand up, Roger's got his hand up, and Ferrer's got his hand up. So, Mike.
From what I understand, though, raising our rates is we're pretty competitive with surrounding cemeteries. We're going to outprice ourselves if we raise our rates way up high. The other cemeteries aren't raising their rates along with us. They're staying the same, so we could outprice ourselves on some of these things, the burials and the cremations. But I know it's all relative to what we're talking about here, but we're pretty close. Everybody's pretty close.
Relative's the answer. People are going to stay where the relatives are.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's a good point, John.
Roger, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I was going to ask Rhonda, if we were to just do the 0.1, if I understood correctly, you're talking about that out of our coffers, we're basically going to be looking at a 40% overall reduction, correct?
Correct. For the contribution, so we would be increasing our contribution by an additional 40%.
Okay.
So instead of 210,000, we're looking at almost 300,000.
So does the math work that if we only go up 1%, it would be half of that?
20%, correct. And we would probably have to, you know, anywhere between 45,000.
Okay.
And
So-
that would help cover the salary increases if you do those.
Okay. And if the cemetery board were to consider some increase of some sort in terms of services provided, they could make up the difference until we get through this COVID crisis and we see what's going on after we have all of our property evaluations, and we could come back and look at that again.
That'd be great. Sure.
But it's still going to be a hit in our overall budget, correct?
Correct. Now I don't know if you saw the numbers that I put together, but in 2018, when there was an increase in the millage rate on behalf of the cemetery, they received an additional 40,000 from 17 to 18, and then from 18 to 19, because the assessed values went up, our contribution went up another 17, almost 18,000 then. So if the assessed values go up, it's going to go up in addition to the 20% that we're increasing it now.
And we won't know that till
The
2022.
evaluation is done.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Mayor,
You finished, Roger?
Yes, thank
Eric,
you.
you had your hand up.
Yeah, so the money is collected from the property taxes and it goes into the general fund, correct?
It could go into other funds as well, wherever we have it stipulated to go, yes.
So in reality, we're just taking more dollars from money that we already receive and just putting them into someplace else.
Correct.
To the cemetery, right?
Correct.
So, okay, I just want to make sure that was clear. And do we earmark those dollars, or does it just go to the general fund?
It's in the budget. We already have it included in the budget in the general fund in the governmental, general government section. It's towards the end of the governmental section.
Okay. I have a couple other questions, Mayor. So Mike DeLone, so I can't imagine that the prices are that elastic that, you know, as John said, you know, it's relative. People aren't going to go get buried in Stowe to save $50 if all their family's buried in there. There's a point.
You're right there, yeah.
I know John's point is probably about $5, but other people's probably a little bit higher dollar amount, right? So I guess maybe what the question is, would it not make, maybe should we not try maybe 1% and increasing and see where that takes, increasing the prices, and maybe the township comes back with pricing and adjusted pricing.
That would work, but I said if things are tight, but you know, I think if we did raise the rates, and I think we have talked about it, but like I said, we're always careful about what, you know, everybody around us is doing also.
Yeah. So and then I have one other question, and maybe it's for you, Keith. So you talk about this, you know, being able to pay seasonal employees a competitive rate. You know, one of the things that we've been discussing, or I guess I've discussed with another council person, is how do we, you know, can we bring somebody in from the community and as you know, young kids, underprivileged kids that need work, to get them into the system to see that, you know, so can we hire locally is the question.
Oh, I think that's what we look at. We look at all of them that come in. I know that in the township, we try to particularly hire local, you know, other things being equal. But that's a very good point. Sure, that would be, but we need some people to apply. That's
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
That would be a determining factor.
All right, Robin, you got the floor.
yeah. Thank you, Mayor. I was wondering, just to kind of feel Rhonda out on the possible implications on the housing boom. which could really be a boon to on the property tax side of the ledger. Right now, I would also like to know from the cemetery board, anybody who's there, what are the implications of the budget you're presenting as to the back down and the numbers going down to the function of the cemetery? By backing off your budget, taking the revenue down from what you are requesting, what will be the implication of services at the cemetery?
Mike, you can speak to this, but to be perfectly honest, our services will remain as high as they've been. I mean, that's where you get dedicated people doing work. Roger's been there for what, 30 years, Mike?
Over 30 years.
And then been there 20 years.
Yeah.
I mean, so the people that are there are dedicated to what they do. They're just, doing the good work that needs to be done. And hopefully with point one, that would be a little bit extra money in these tough times.
Okay, so the money is going to be geared. Basically, the function is the staff.
Not only staff.
Operational.
Operation of the cemetery.
Okay, but that's what I'm getting at. What are the implications on the operation, the equipment, supplies, so on and so forth, when you're backing your budget down? If we decided to not fund you to the degree that you are asking, what are the implications? They have to be someplace on the staff or on the equipment or the supplies.
Did you get Robin? I was wondering if you got the letter that we sent for the needs of the cemetery. Did you get that?
I did not get that.
Okay, because that explained a lot of it. Like they were going to use it for the roads in that cemetery are terrible. You have underground irrigation over the whole cemetery that needs pretty much. That's what I'm saying. These are things that money.
Not to drag that out then, Mike. Yeah. Not to drag that out then, if that's been explained. My only question was from the budget that has been submitted, the amount of the request for money to be budgeted toward trying to address those needs.
Yes.
By the amount of money that we encumber for that, what are the implications if we don't hit that sweet spot that the request is being made for?
Well, we won't be able to do most of the things then. We'll just have to put it together piecemeal.
Well, that's what I was getting at.
Well, it'll be hard. We may be able to keep up with the tree removal, because the tree removal in that cemetery is crazy. There's so many bad trees, and I mean they're expensive to remove. They're not little trees. So that's just one thing. There's other things. We won't be able to repair some of the roads that are bad. They need really, really repaired bad. So, the cemetery, I look at it as a little city, and we don't have the money to do things, just like the city of Kent doesn't have the money to do some things. And I guess we'll have to wait until things get better if we can't get the money we have now or need now.
So we're looking at a reduction in the ability to function at the cemetery that might diminish.
I wouldn't say we're going to. Things won't get done. Things are in. There is a need now, and it's just going to take it longer for us to repair the things that we need to repair.
Our guys will keep working as hard as they have.
That's not that was in no way a sideway comment about the staff. I know they're going to do what they do, irrespective of the resources that are available. My question was just basically the implications of funding. and your ability not to be able to do some of the things that maybe you want to be able to address with a lack of funding. They're getting away from that then to Rhonda. Rhonda, my question's still right. I expect, and I think most people do, forecasting the next triennial update by the county to be a real boon, because property values will probably go up markedly. How do you see that right now? What would be the implications kind of going toward the cemetery? Would they then be benefiting by the same measure?
Absolutely. So when the assessed values go up, so does our contribution based on whatever millage rate we're contributing to the cemetery on the city's behalf. So even if it went up only 20% by 1 mills, they're still looking at $40,000 to $45,000 additional contribution from the city. But then if the assessed values, as those assessed values go up, the property values, so does the percentage that we contribute to them as well. Does that make sense?
I'm sorry. Please go on.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to see if that made sense.
Yeah, and it makes absolute sense. My question right now, have you been able to forecast approximately what you think or feel is happening in the housing market that we might be able to kind of forecast?
Well, I don't know what the county is going to do with the revaluations, and increasing the assessed values. I know as houses are up for sale, sometimes they're going higher than they are actually selling for. So that is, of course, increasing the assessed values. But if a house isn't for sale, I'm not sure how the county is going to value that at the end of this year.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah. Is there any further discussion on the millage? Is there a motion to change it or keep it? Gwen, turn your unmute.
Yeah, sorry. I just have a really quick question. So the millage that we're talking about does that pay the wage increases, or are these city employees that are asking for? I guess I want to.
They're not. I guess they're not city. Are they city employees? They're not city employees.
No.
We're a joint cemetery. They don't.
You're a union cemetery that's owned by Franklin Township in the city of Kent.
Yes.
They have their own secretary who makes out their own paychecks.
And they're not in a union. They're just.
Okay. So why? This might be a stupid question, so my apologies in advance. So why is it that there's two separate motions for us to consider their wage increase and increased millage? Do they not have the power to do raises?
That comes yearly to us to do
in
the joint meeting between the trustees from Franklin Township and the city council of the city. Yeah.
That's
because it's a union cemetery. We own it.
That's why we meet in May every year to do this. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, John, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, I'm going to try to make a motion. I'd make a motion to approve the wage increases and a 0.1 millage increase.
I'll second that.
Who seconded? I missed it.
Keith Benjamin.
Keith, okay. Is there any discussion on either one of those motions? Combined motions, I should say. All right, I'll call the question then. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Okay, it passes. So
you have to do roll call, Jerry?
I don't think so.
Oh, no, that's with the ordinances. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, now we're to the ordinance. Would the clerk? No, we have to we need a motion to authorize the 3 ordinances.
So moved.
Second.
Second by John Kuhar. Is there any question on that? Tracy?
Do we have to change the language of the first ordinance since we changed the mode?
When I ask
Yes.
the clerk to read them, I'm gonna say as amended.
Okay.
Okay? All right, all in favor of authorizing the three legislation signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Okay. Would the clerk read draft number 2021-042 as amended?
Amended draft number 2021-042, a joint resolution of the Board of Trustees of Franklin Township and the Council of the City of Kent, Ohio, pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 759.34, determining that the rate of taxes be levied upon all of the taxable property of said municipality and said township for cemetery purposes for the year of 2021 shall be and hereby is fixed in an amount equal to 0.60 mils for the City of Kent and 0.60 mils for Franklin Township and declaring an emergency.
Move suspension.
Second.
Second. Please call the roll for suspension.
Mr. Amrine,
Yes.
Mr. De Leon,
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara,
You're
You're
muted.
muted. You're
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Kuhar,
yes.
Ms. Rosenberg,
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish,
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti,
Yes.
Mr. Turner,
Yes.
Ms. Wallach,
Yes.
Mr. Benjamin,
Yes.
Ms. Hannah,
Yes.
Mr. Swan.
Move adoption.
Second.
Second by Mike. Is there any discussion on adopting this ordinance? Seeing none, please call the roll for adoption.
Mr. Amrine,
Yes.
Mr. De Leon,
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara,
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar,
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg,
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish,
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti,
Yes.
Mr. Turner,
Yes.
Ms. Wallach,
Yes.
Mr. Benjamin,
Yes.
Ms. Hannah,
Yes.
Mr. Swan.
Mr. Swan.
Got.
Was there?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Is that a vote for yes?
That's
Yes.
the way I heard it.
Okay. Amended draft number 2021-042 is passed.
Okay, thank you. Would the clerk read draft number 2021-043 with Mr. Lux's name in it?
Draft number 2021-043, a joint resolution appointing Leo Lux, an at-large trustee to the Standing Rock Cemetery Board of Trustees in accordance with the provision of the Ohio Revised Code Section 759.36, effective January 1st, 2022, and ending December 31st, 2024, and declaring an emergency.
Move suspension.
Second.
Second by Roger. Would the clerk read the roll for suspension?
Mr. De Leon,
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara,
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar,
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg,
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish,
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti,
Yes.
Mr. Turner,
Yes.
Ms. Wallach,
Yes.
Mr. Benjamin,
Yes.
Ms. Hannah,
Yes.
Mr. Swan,
Yes.
Mr. Amrine.
Yes.
Move adoption.
Second.
Second. Is there any discussion on adopting this ordinance? Seeing none, please call the roll for adoption.
Mr. De Leon,
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara,
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar,
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg,
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish,
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti,
Yes.
Mr. Turner,
Yes.
Ms. Wallach,
Yes.
Mr. Benjamin,
Yes.
Ms. Hannah,
Yes.
Mr. Swan,
Yes.
Mr. Amrine.
Yes.
Joint Resolution 2021-043 is passed.
Okay, thank you. Would the clerk read draft number 2021-44 as presented?
Draft number 2021-044, a joint resolution granting salary and hourly pay raises to the personnel of the Standing Rock Cemetery and declaring an emergency.
Move suspension.
Second.
Second by Mike. Please call the roll on suspension.
Mr. Ferrara,
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar,
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg,
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish,
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti,
Yes.
Ms. Wallach,
Yes.
Mr. Benjamin,
Yes.
Ms. Hannah,
Yes.
Mr. Swan,
Yes.
Mr. Amrine,
Yes.
Mr. De Leon.
Yes.
Move adoption.
Mr. Turner, yes.
Turner. Oh,
Mr. Turner, yes.
okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Gotcha.
All right. Now I need a motion for adoption.
So move to adopt. Second.
Second, okay. Is there any question on the Heidi?
Yeah, I just want to say that the salary issue seems to be important. These are pretty, especially for those at the low end. I think it's a question of fairness and equity that we look at increasing those salaries. And it's also very wise competition for labor that we're experiencing now. So I think that we should at least pay people what they're going to get working at McDonald's.
All right, is there any more discussion? All right, please call the roll for adoption.
Mr. Ferrara,
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar,
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg,
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish,
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti,
Yes.
Mr. Turner,
Yes.
Ms. Wallach,
Yes.
Mr. Benjamin,
Yes.
Ms. Hannah,
Yes.
Mr. Swan,
Mr. Swan.
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Amrine,
Yes.
and Mr. De Leon.
Yes.
Joint Resolution 2021-044 has passed.
Okay, thank you. Just a comment, we should treat the people that'll be in our life someday that are gonna be the last ones to let you down, so. Good thing. If there's nothing else to come before this joint meeting, I'm gonna adjourn it.
Thank you, everyone.
Mr. Ferrer.
I would just have a comment. It is an asset to the city and to the county and, to the township, and it reflects upon all of us and the city, right? So it's a beautiful piece of property. People like to walk back there. We've set a high standard, and I think we should be proud of that. And that comes with a cost, but I think we benefit from it. And everybody benefits from it. So I think it's worth putting resources into it.
Okay, is there anybody else? Seeing none, thank you for the trustee. We're adjourned.
Thank you.
If you want to stay with us, you're welcome to stay with us.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. I'm going to call to order the council committee meetings of May 5th. The agenda's in front of you. The only thing I want to say as we start, happy birthday, Mr. Roller. Today is Mr. Roller's birthday, so everybody wish Mr. Roller a happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Dave.
Happy
Happy
birthday.
birthday!
Happy birthday, Dave.
How old?
All right, we're going to move into committee meetings. First on the agenda is Finance Committee, Mr. DeLeon.
Okay, we are going to talk about the West Side Fire Station, whether it's going to be a pitched roof or a flat roof. Dave, you have something?
Yeah, so, well, first, thank you, Mayor, although I told my wife it was a lot more fun to turn 26 than 56. So, anyways, yeah, we're back to talk tonight about the roof. I know Chief Tosco wishes we had solved this thing 6 years ago, but this really is a decision of 6 years in the making. So I do want to make sure you fully understand that fact that there's been a lot of thought and a lot of discussion that's gone into all the aspects of this. So I don't want you to, for a minute, think that this is any kind of rush job or anything like that. We've had many, many discussions on the aspects of this project, the roof in particular, that we're here to talk about. And I know the prominent issue related to the roof right now has been the discussion of the historical relevance of the architect and the fact that this building was originally designed, it was a flat roof. And should that be changed further? We know it's been changed partially, but should it be changed further? And that is very important. And I think you know this. I mean, I want to go on record to remind everybody, we're big fans of historic preservation at the staff level. We're really proud of the fact that, you know, we're one of the select few communities in Ohio that has gone through the local certification process. We've got, I know Doug listed a number of projects that council's been able to approve, but as the staff, we've been really proud to put those deals together. I mean, we've been able to put those packages in a way and get those buildings saved. So please know that up front. And in no part are we in any way trying to diminish that. The difference for us is we've got sort of 3 boxes that we got to address from the staff level as your staff. First box is that historical value, which we could talk about. The second value, or the second box, is stewardship of public dollars. I mean, that's a big part of our job. Everything we do, we got to ask the question, is it optimized funding? Is it efficient, effective, all those kinds of things? And that's both, in this case, that's both the original construction and then the maintenance, sort of life cycle costs. That's the second box. And the third box, actually, I think gets overlooked to some extent because we get so much time talking on the other things. It has to do with the function and the functional value of the structure to the folks that are housed inside it. And I say that meaning we're talking life safety personnel here. And so any extra minute related to delays that could come up as a result of something related to the roof, which the chief can talk about, the fact that his guys do go up on that roof right now fairly frequently because it's a flat roof. I guess I just won't want to forget the fact that it's different if it's like the city manager's office. I can climb up on the roof and no one has to worry. But when the fire department's climbing on a roof, that's a big deal because their time is measured in seconds. And climbing down a ladder off the side of a building to respond to a 911 call, that's problematic from the staff. So there's 3 boxes for us. And each of those boxes were evaluated in total. That's how we ended up landing on the pitched roof. So I just want to give you that framework. I'll let the staff talk about specifically each of their boxes. And I think Melanie, she's on here somewhere. She's there she is. She's our resident sort of expert on the building, all things related to buildings. So Melanie, I'll turn it to you.
Great. Thank you this evening. I've kind of been marked with giving you kind of a little bit of the history along with the dollars that we've expended so far and what we would be looking at expending additionally in this. According to our records, this shows that this project, as the city manager's already noted, actually started back in 2015 with then Service Director Gene Roberts and the chief discussing the problems and issues with the building. At that time, we had a leaky roof, we had several maintenance issues that were taking place, and then of course the needs of the personnel inside of the building, both being the space, their sleeping quarters, that they were actually receiving rain on, the fact that it was extremely moist and wet in those areas, as well as the area in the bays where the vehicles are stored. So in 2016, they came to council and they asked for funding to begin looking at this project. At that time, council had actually afforded this project approximately $450,000, of which $250,000 of that was earmarked specifically for the roof structure itself. At that time, they then entered into a contract with Charles Corcoran as our architect, and we began looking and designing at the roof. From the very beginning, a sloped roof was requested by staff and designed by the architect. And it was agreed at that time that the slope roof would be the best solution for future maintenance and to eliminate the possibility of our firemen being up on top having to take care of it, and that long-term maintenance of having to take care of that roof. With the needs of the fire department in mind, the design of the sloped roof would allow for the continued roof line. This peaked roof was also going to provide space for our new HVAC equipment and the ductwork to be run inside of the building, where right now it sits on top of the building and runs outside. The roof line would create a peaked roof that is similar to the houses and buildings in that area, and it was felt by those that were a part of this that it would allow for the structure to blend into the residential neighborhood. In 2017, some things had changed and we had to actually navigate some waters with changing our architect. And that's when our current architect, Mr. Ted Manfres, came online with us. He was kind enough to pick up the design where it was, listen to the concerns of the staff and the things that they were looking at, and continue to move forward with that. That fast forwarded us then to 2019, where we then began the process. We had finished what we needed to. We had appeared before the building department, gotten our approvals, and we were ready to bid this project in October of 2019. On November 5th, we opened the bids. The architect's base bid at that time was $445,000. We only received one bid, and that bid actually came in at $558,000. It was over the estimate by 20%, and we were unable to award at that time. Unfortunately, we had to go back to the drawing board. We began to review our cost, the alternates. We looked at what our needs were. We again reevaluated what our firemen were living with, what our design choice was. And we went back to council and we asked for an additional $125,000 for the 2020 budget. That ask was received and approved. We began to look to rebid this in the beginning of 2020. And it was at that time that the Architectural Review Board asked for an opportunity to look at this. We attended that meeting in February of 2020. There was a motion that was made, and it was recommended that the service director strongly reconsider reviewing the plans to preserve the architectural integrity of the original building with the flat roof. I did at that time take this information back to the fire chief, the staff, as well as our architects to take a look at what we had designed and what was available to us. We took a look at the minutes, and as it was pointed out to us by the Architectural Review Board, the addition on the north side of the building in 1991 had a pitched roof on it. The chief and staff further pointed out that through time and history, all of the windows and the doors had been changed, not matching what was originally on the building. And one Architectural Review Board member actually stated that a pitched roof was easier to maintain for the use and longevity of the building. The issue of the roof leaking still was a concern, and the moisture in the building, as investigated and presented in an environmental study that we had, indicated excessive moisture in the living areas in the station. After this lengthy review and consideration of the needs of the personnel, the cost of the roof, and the additional expenses of the drawings and change in design, plus the added design and expense for a new HVAC system or ductwork if we had gone with a flat roof, it was agreed by the chief, the department, and those involved that staying the course was the most financially responsible choice of the taxpayers' dollars and the health and safety of our personnel. Unfortunately, then we all know what happened in March of 2020, and the building unfortunately had to be put on hold once again, both the finances and the world situation. In 2021, after the budget was approved, we finalized the drawings. Again, we revisited the architect's estimates and reviewed the plans, discussed the flat roof approach again, and analyzed additional costs that went into a pitched roof. At this time, I had actually worked with our architects to come up with a design number so that we would know that if we wanted to change this roof design or have it as an alternate, what that would cost us. That estimate at this time would be between $12,000 and $15,000 for that redesign. We also went back and took a look at what the probable cost was for the roof according to the 2018 bid that we had received. Our architects were able to get an estimate from the contractors at that time, and the estimate for the pitched roof was around $98,000. The architects were currently working on a project and had opened bids here for a flat roof project in 2021, and the cost came in between $25 and $30 per square foot. The total square footage that would have to be covered with a flat roof is 3,784 square feet. So the cost for the roof will run somewhere between $94,000 and $113,000. Roughly the same. We would also then need to remove the metal decking that's there to ensure the warranty of the new roof. This would be an additional cost that I can't really put a dollar amount to. Not to mention, again, that we would have to take what was designed as our HVAC system and our ductwork, an inside use to an outside use. So in March of this year, we went out for bid. Our architect's base bid estimate was $550,000. On April 19th, we opened the bids and the lowest bid came in at $527,595. Again, that is our base bid. This came in approximately 5% below the architect's estimate. There were a total of 4 bids that were received. And according to our bid documents, in order to expedite this process, we are to award this project in 30 days. So again, the things that we looked and we took under consideration from the very beginning were the needs of the department, the proper placement and storage of our gear, the storage of our medical equipment, the use of it, and of course, the underlying large factor that was pushing this project. We did not want a leaky roof with long-term maintenance. We took a look at the city funding. And again, as I just explained, we would be seeing additional costs of between $12,000 and $15,000 for design. We would have to be looking at alternate HVAC systems and ductwork. And then of course, should we choose to go with a flat roof, we will have long-term maintenance, very similar to the Service Administration Complex on 930 Overholt, which we currently do right now. Based on the cost that I'm utilizing for that building, probably in 3 to 5 years, we would have to enter a contract after the warranties for the first initial years of that flat roof ran out. And we'd be looking at roughly between $5,000 to $7,000 annually on the maintenance of that facility. With all the respect to the firemen, they're not professionals to maintain that roof. And we really should have the annual review of twice a year to have someone up there taking a look at it and making sure that the structure itself is fine, as well as the membrane that's on top of there. I do feel that several times we took very serious consideration of the Architectural Review Board and those that I had spoke to about the architectural significance of this roof structure. And while we must look at all of the items, we do feel that, again, based on the financial responsibility that we have to our residents, we do need to look at using the pitched roof. We also believe that taking care of our firefighters in that building and allowing them to have a place where they sleep and do their work without being rained on is extremely paramount to the process that they have. The continued maintenance and expense were also a part of our concerns, and that is why we were looking at our budget. As always, long-term range effects and continuing things that we have are things that we always continue to look at. And finally, we do have a new police building that we could look at for a flat roof. And unfortunately, while brand new and moving in December of 2018, I've had the opportunity of not once, not twice, but 3 major times of addressing some problems with the membrane on that brand new facility. So while a flat roof seems to be something that is an issue that we should look at, I do believe that we have in earnest taken a look at that. And one of the things that I kept pressing our architect who is with us this evening was, can you tell me that this roof will never leak if we design this flat roof? And I quote, I have never told a client that their flat roof will not leak. And so therefore, I do feel that as the service director, I do back the police or the fire chief and his department in wanting to go ahead and place a pitched roof on this building for the safety and the good stewardship of taxpayers' dollars. Thank you.
Chief Tosco, do you have anything to add? You know, while you're here?
That was very, very well put, Melanie. I appreciate that. And I want to appreciate, Mr. Fuller, Mr. Truckles, Mr. Boyles, and Mr. Summers' point of view. I understand and appreciate their point of view. However, as a fire chief, I'm speaking for the firefighters as well, and my budget and stewardship of my budget. The fire department has real specific needs from the buildings they occupy, right? We have to have the right size. It has to be, probably the most important, it has to be in the right location for quick response times. It's got to be sized right and it's got to be functional. But most of all, I think in this case, this building has to be low maintenance and it's got to be durable. In other words, the maintenance of the station shouldn't keep the firefighters busy and be a burden on the maintenance budget. I got to pay for fire trucks. And if I'm putting money into a roof, in addition to that, it takes away from my ability to keep the fire trucks on the road. We've been working, like Melanie said, we've been working on this since 2015 to make this building not only functional for the firefighters, but low in maintenance. And this low in maintenance concept has been in almost every conversation we've had since the beginning. I'm going to tell you that was one of my concerns. And it's one of the main reasons we keep coming back to that pitched roof concept. This building, the station is in a residential neighborhood, right? There's a lot of large nearby trees in the area where sheds leaves, branches, and they land on our roof. And they really do. I mean, it happens Saturdays and Sundays, and it happens all the time. And they land on our roof, and we've got to go up and clean those out. We got to get up there. There's a lot of ventilation. There's a lot of things in the roof that the leaves get into, and we have to clear it by hand. Also, it blocks up those scuppers, and those are the drains. Those are the gutters that come down. And once that backs up, there's so many protrusions into that roof right now that it'll eventually find that low spot, and water gets in the building. Also, in the wintertime, ice and snow build up. These ice dams cause backups, and one of the reasons, there's so many of those protrusions, again, they leak as well. And a lot of times I've been up there myself and trying to clear some snow out from around the scuppers to keep those clear so it drains well. And as Melanie mentioned, we have had an environmental study performed to they looked at fungal spore air monitoring, which is like mold spores, and indicated a very high reading in that building. And that was indicative of high moisture levels in that building. So absent of a moisture getting into that roof assembly, there's really no other way for that inordinately high level of moisture to get in that building. So it's over the years of that whole ceiling assembly of being wet from those leaks. So these micro leaks may not cause constant dripping into the station. I know some of you have been to that station, of seeing the holes in the roof, seeing the leaks, and seeing the issues with the constant leaking over the years. And we can tell there obviously is a lot of moisture in there. And we've also looked at asbestos. There is testing indicated that asbestos is present in that flat roof assembly, which we knew at that time it was built. I'm just worried that continued leakage over the years, even if we try to maintain that, it's still going to cause that asbestos become friable. It's going to continue to enter into the atmosphere where the firefighters are. And we felt that the only way to really protect those guys over there is to completely cover that roof. It's something that's going to be durable and long lasting. The north side, where there is a pitched roof, has been there for about 30 years. It's due. Part of the plan is to replace that roof as well as we do this other roof. And we've had no leaks in that building that I know of in the last 30 years. So, I think I have to look at the overall picture and look at the maintenance free as possible and make it durable as possible. So, and that just led us to the conclusion that the pitched roof would be the preferable, option for us for the fire department.
Anyone else from the administration that they have? No? Anybody from council? Questions? John, you had your hand up first. Go ahead.
Melanie, is there any expansion to the perimeter of the station in this project?
Yes. To the rear, there is a small push out, and that is due to the needs of the fire department's gear maintenance. Right now, they don't have proper ventilation for that in order to get rid of the carcinogens that are in that in order to make it safe, as well as to have a safe and secure area for their medical things that they have to carry on their squads. There was a small expansion also to the kitchen area, but yes, it's about 760 square feet.
So this is 760 square feet of non-historic space that's being added?
Yes.
Okay. Now, let me ask you this. The bids that you have received to do the pitched roof that fits in nicely with the neighborhood, are those bids drawn up in such a way that they won't shoot up like the building materials have been doing? Are they fixed, locked in?
They're locked in until May 18th of this month.
Mm-hmm. And are you aware that most building materials have went up at least 30 to 40% in the last 4 months?
Yes. Yes, we are aware of that.
Okay. That's all.
Heidi.
Yeah, I had a similar question about the bid. So we haven't awarded the bid yet, correct? Correct, but we're kind of waiting on that. And so once we do award the bid, if we do on this sloped roof, will they be able to do the project within a reasonable time frame? Have they indicated that they could jump right on, or are we going to see further delays?
No, they should be able to start post haste. Obviously, they have the documents that need to be filled out and signed. They need to make sure that we have our bonds in place, and that takes anywhere between about 12 to 15 to maybe 25 days. But once we have all of that in hand, we do anticipate construction to start mid-June. And then we would be looking at about a 4 to 5 month process for this.
All right, and if we did a flat roof, can you estimate how much time would go into that process?
Well, we would have to go back to the drawing board and have the drawings redone.
Right, the bids. And
I'm going to anticipate that's probably at least a 2-month process, because it's not just a matter of redesigning that roof, but then we have to work with our engineers. Again, you would be changing some of your HVAC, your duct work. So again, it's not just making Mr. Manfris go back and erase the pitched roof and put that flat roof on. So it would delay this, yes.
so there's another factor then is time.
Yes.
Yeah, and can I jump in? John, Chief Tosco, you were made a point of that to me when we've talked before. Do you want to talk about it? You thought the timing was important for some of the stuff that you were facing, like with school being out and so forth.
Exactly, it is. Right now, well, we don't get extremely quiet, but things slow down a little bit when school is out. So we were hoping to have construction start in June. Working with the contractor and looking at the timeline, there are going to be times where we're going to have to empty that station out and close that station for temporarily while we move all the equipment in. So the 3 firefighters that are over there will have to come over here, and that just works out really good for this summer. If we push this back into the fall, I'm not sure. That's when we start getting busy. That's when I just feel we work a lot better having 2 stations. So I think just this timeline, the way we're set up now, if we were to start construction next month, would be perfect for us. We could just empty that station, and then I think if we're either way, that will hasten the construction a little bit.
Further questions from anyone? Tracy?
Yeah, this is just a general question I have. Flat roofs, it sounds like, are not very good. Why do we keep putting them on our buildings then? Aren't we going to have a flat roof on the new city hall also?
Actually, we're working on that because that was a huge concern from council from the get-go. So we are looking at putting a slight pitch on that roof in areas that we can. Where we have to sit our equipment, no, it will have to be flat, but we will make sure that we're angling that properly towards the drains. Usually with the buildings and things of that nature will determine what kind of a pitch and how much of a pitch you can actually put on a building.
Yeah, I have another question too.
Go ahead.
You said that the ductwork is going to have to be replaced. It's going to be replaced either way, right? Whether you have a pitched roof or whether you have a flat roof. Is the inside ductwork a lot cheaper than outside ductwork?
Yes, the outside ductwork is going to have to be designed to be self-insulating. Again, the same way with the HVAC system, at least it's going to be inside protected by elements. So the insulating and how it runs and how it functions are completely different than if you have to place it outside.
Okay, that's all I have.
Jerry, did you have some?
Just to kind of elaborate what Melanie has said, my office views out over the flat roof that goes over the jail. And not so much this last winter, but winter before, it was a weekly thing. We had people shoveling snow to make the water flow to the drain because it wouldn't drain. Right now, and I realize it rained, but last week when it rained and it was kind of nice, there's a steady 8-inch pool of water out here that doesn't drain. And eventually it's down by Amy's desk down by the jail. If you call that efficient, well, I don't agree with it. But right now there's at least 8 inches of water sitting here on the roof. And I realize it rained today, but I'll bet it'll be there in 3 days at sunshine yet until it either evaporates or works its way down in the walls of the building. And this is a fairly new building. And what's gonna happen, you get moisture in a wall, you're gonna have mold growing. So it's just my opinion as I look out my window every
Roger?
You're muted, Roger.
Excellent.
There we go. It's rare that I'm muted, right, Mike?
That's very, you said it, I didn't.
Yeah. Melody, do you happen to know what the last time that roof was replaced on that fire station?
No, I do not have that information.
Okay. The second question I have, regardless of what roof's going to be put on there, if I recall, only because I've been in the school business and flat roofs my whole life, as I recall, there's probably metal trusses and there's probably some kind of corrugated metal, and then the roof is put on top of that, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so how do we know that structurally those things are still good? Because on the inside, isn't there some kind of a plastered ceiling on those metal? Okay, so how do we know that even those trusses haven't been compromised?
We wouldn't know, and we wouldn't know about the metal decking until we actually removed everything.
Okay.
Further questions?
Yeah, Mike.
Robin. Okay, go ahead, Robin.
Melanie, what are the life expectations for a flat and a pitched roof now? What are engineers saying the overall life expectancy of each design is, and the cost implications?
Sure. Well, as I've already explained, we looked at the cost of the pitched roof at about $98,000 and a flat roof currently here running us between about $94,000 and $113,000 just to put it down. You'd have your annual maintenance with a flat roof. A pitched roof is going to depend on the materials that we use. A standard shingle is going to be 20, 25, 30 years. A standing metal seam is going to give us maybe 50 years. I do have the architects online that might be able to better tell us what we're going to get out of a flat roof. I know the flat roof at the PD is supposed to last us 20 to 25. But again, I think some of the elements that you work with on that is the expansion and contraction of the material that's on top of there, along with the building that's settling, along with the protrusions that come through the top of that roof that sometimes you have to make sure are being maintained. And thus the importance of having a continual contract annually to make sure that it's being looked at and followed.
Then what you're saying ultimately is the cost to the city would be significant.
I think with the flat roof, you're going to have a known number of somewhere between $5,000 and $7,000 after year 2 or 3, and then a pitched roof. Again, a windstorm, a hailstorm can come through, and you're going to have to replace shingles of that nature. But I do think that it goes down what you would have to do on repairs on the pitched roof. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions? Jerry?
Yeah, I just got to kind of sum this up a little bit. And I understand as a kid raised up on that side of town that when we moved from a one stall, we had a fire truck in there at the corner of Crane Avenue and Manaway Street, and they built this new station. And the architect that day is built a building, a sign of the times. And it was a joint building built between the township trustees and the city of Kent. And we later took the responsibility of taking that station over, and I can't remember the year, maybe Chief Costco can remember that year, but it became our responsibility. But right now, in the middle of that, the 2 bays, is a plaque that recognizes everybody, the historic rights of that building, the township trustees, the city of Kent, and the architect. And I'm sure with the new renovation, that plaque is going to remain. If I'm not right, somebody tell me that. All right, if you go to Streetsboro just added on to their fire department over there, they put hip roofs on it. If you go into Shalersville, Manaway, the new station there has a hip roof on there. if you go over to Portage Trail and the Cog Falls, the new subdivision fire department they built there, it has a hip roof on there. Now that's got to make you wonder, is that more cost efficient than a flat roof? And that's all I want to say.
Roger, did you have something else?
No, no.
Okay. Is there further from council? Melanie, do you have something?
I just want to commend council for taking the time to look at this. I am impressed with your desire for historic preservation. But we did look very long and hard as staff on this to make sure that we were trying to do what was right for the city as a whole. And I am impressed with the architecture here in Kent. I come from an area where Western Reserve architecture was prominent, and I was very much a part of making sure that we did historical preservation on those kinds of things. So I have great appreciation for Ms. Treppel, for Mr. Fuller, for Mr. Boyle, who has come to you guys to ask you for the reconsideration of this. And so to be a part of that and to know that we're trying to do the best that we can with what we have, I just appreciate the opportunity to be able to present this to you tonight. Thank you.
Further from council? With that, I will go to the audience. Anybody in the audience have? Doug?
Thank you very much, council. And whoa, are you hearing what I'm hearing?
That big pinging.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to get that out of the oven.
Make the dogs bark.
Ms. Baker, your presentation was very well done and very complete. I want you, council, though, to consider something else and maybe a couple of different angles to things. One, we are here largely trying to preserve the historic nature of the building. Because of the time it was done in, it may look like a simple building, but it was designed with great purpose with that simplicity in the international style, which often called a civic international style, which keeps things very less expensive without much detail, much drama to them. This was coming out of World War II, and as a country, we didn't have a lot of money to spend on our civic buildings. It reflects that attitude and style of the building. I wish when the city had originally started to look at this, had approached the local community and asked us, the community, what would be a wise thing to do. There could have been a partnership formed at that time to work together on it rather than working separately. Many of the things that are being talked to about tonight have solutions, and I think, council, you'll be given in so many cases a worst case scenario. Even ductwork, yes, it's on the roof now, and the truss roof would be designed so ductwork could be put within it. However, if designed, redesigned from the beginning or redesigned now, there's potentially money saved in moving a lot of that ductwork inside the building. So I'd like you to think of maybe 3 different points here, then I'm going to make a few others. But one, a win for the city is to have the building remain in its historic form. So we can talk to students about it, we can talk to citizens about it. There's lessons to be learned in this type of a building. It's not as dramatic as many downtown buildings, but it represents its period very well. This all can be done within a very tight time frame and perhaps not extending the construction time and getting the building under roof at all. Inspections can be made of the existing roof, designs for the flat roof. I need not stop saying that. It's not a flat roof. It's a pitched roof. It's just a low pitched roof. As Ms. Baker just said, they maybe modified the city hall building, but it's a low pitched roof. That's what these are. They're not at all flat, and they should drain. If you've got 8 inches on your roof, Mr. Mayor, anywhere, you got to go find out about it. I doubt very much if that's the case. I'm sure somebody, hopefully not from the fire department, will be up on that roof tomorrow checking that out. And the change order might, for the roof portion, not cost any more money, but indeed could cost and save money over the entire budget of the building. We've been given very uh, uh, negative scenarios here, and I think there are some positive ones. Another good part about it is that the construction firm that is the lowest and presumably best bid also has an architectural staff that would not need to have a full redraw of the building to find out what costs are really involved. It could be done rather rapidly. A very disappointing thing that I need council to really consider, this was brought up to the city 18 months ago, a year and a half ago. The city administration said after the architecture review board meeting that they would get alternate prices on it to see what can be saved or spent. They also said that they would bring that, or possibly would bring it to council. We wouldn't be here talking now if city administration did what it said it was going to be doing. You would have heard about this a year and a half ago, and logical decisions could have been made at that time, rather than having to hear a presentation like you just did, trying to explain why a lot of important decisions were made without consultation from any citizen in Kent that is not part of administration. A small item, perhaps, it was stated that last 2 weeks ago that half the roof had a pitched roof put on it. Well, it's not that at all. When the addition is added to this, only 15% of this building would actually have that pitched roof. And as Dave Summers said to you last 2 weeks ago, if he had known what he knew today, he would not have worked with the city on putting the pitched roof on the way that it was done. You didn't hear this tonight, and maybe I'm happy about that, but this building was said that it didn't have to be reviewed by architectural review 6 years ago when it was started, because it's not in the architectural review district. Well, it's not in the architectural review district because the city changed the line. The original line, which would have required architectural review, included this site and many other buildings on the west side of Manaway Street, including buildings like the Unitarian Church, including buildings like the old Congregational Church, including buildings that are all along West Main Street in the National Register District, residential district. All of those were removed from the district, making it so that this building didn't have to be reviewed. It's too bad, because again, this could have been caught 6 years ago, but yet lack of communication between the city and citizens put us in this position today. So I don't have too much more to say, except that I hope you'll reconsider all you've heard tonight and say to the city, let's do it right for the city of Kent. Not all buildings, and this is one of them, is not National Register material. It's not that. We're not saying it's that, but it's part of the fabric of the city, part of the fabric of the small buildings that make up the streets and places that we inhabit. And to start to lose the smaller buildings, even while we save some larger ones, it's a loss. It's a loss of, in this case, of architectural integrity. And I hope you'll consider keeping that integrity and having the building relooked at. And it can be done in a very tight time frame because you have a construction firm with an architectural division that can do that rapidly. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Is there further from the audience? Paula, is it? Yes. Go ahead. You're muted. You're muted.
Unmute. Okay, here I am. Okay.
There you go.
Thank you. Thank you again, both of you, for speaking so eloquently about the needs of the city of Kent for a functional fire station on the west side. And what I've been struck by in all of our discussions about this is something that Dave said. There's an historical responsibility here. There's stewardship of citizens' money, tax money, and money and spending here. But I think most importantly, the one that has come up that I've listened to and I've heard most tonight is the functionality of this building. And I'm going to suggest something here, that perhaps the best way to preserve this building is to build a new fire station for the west side. And I know that that sounds perhaps outrageous, but those of us who look to preservation also have to look at, is this building really functional for its current purpose? It was built, when it was built, to serve the people on the west side of Kent. Now, I know the last thing one of you want to hear is that perhaps we should, ask the citizens of Kent to build another fire station on the west side. But if this building is in such dire condition, and it sounds like it's pretty dangerous to even exist in it with asbestos issues and leaks and mold, and at the same time do its job for the city, then I think perhaps we need a new fire station. This building could be preserved as a fire station for a different kind of use. And perhaps someone will take it on and put on a flat roof and restore the flat roof in the area that was made into a gable. We might have a situation here where the preservation of the building might mean change for the city of Kent. But I respect, actually, of the three, I'm an historian, so I'm always going to come down to preservation probably. But the thing that bothers me most is that perhaps this building can't function as it needs to function for the city of Kent anymore as a fire station. So perhaps that is our solution. I know it's a lot more expensive than putting on a new roof, but I don't know. I mean, perhaps the fire chief can speak to that. Is a new building needed, or is this just patch, even with a gable roof? That's about all I can say.
Hey, Dave. Dave, you want to answer that?
Can I respond to Paula? And
surely.
It's really not because she's my neighbor and I talked to her in the neighborhood, but that is a point that she's spot on long term. And so the challenge for us was, keep in mind, we started this back in 2015. So we were trying to pass a levy for a new police station.
Mm-hmm.
We knew we had a new city hall,
mm-hmm.
and then we had this building. And that's why, trust me, we had these very discussions. And the chief at the time was of the opinion, you know what? Let's do something that gets me another 15 or 20 years. I understand the big picture. We're not a super wealthy community. It's hard to have a new, police station, then a new city hall, and try to throw a fire station in at the same time. And so that's how we ended up saying, you know what? Let's do as much as we can to let it live as long as it can. But honestly, and the chief can speak to it far better than I can, but the expectation in our community is a professional, modern fire department. And I'm sure the building that was designed by Mr. Kistler back when it was designed could never have anticipated the kinds of equipment, technology that's available today. So you're 100% right, Paula. It's sort of like fitting a round peg in a square hole, but that's the best hole we got right now. That was our internal conversation. It was, there's only so much we can afford to do at one time. And in prioritization,
mm-hmm.
police station was first, city hall was number 2, and the fire station is number 3. Chief, I don't know, did you want to add any more to that?
Yeah, thank you. If I may, I think Paul makes a good point. We have looked at that. There are deficiencies in that building. It's, we built this modern building here at Station 1, much taller doors. We can much wider doors that we can put ladder trucks, we can put tanker trucks over there, and we can't put those over there. We can put extra ambulances over here, and we can't put them over there. There is deficiency. I understand that. We don't have a decon room for decontaminating our turnout gear and such. We have to do it all over here. So, one of the biggest things though we have to look at, I alluded to earlier, is location. Like everything, location. And for fire departments, we have to look at a study. We would most likely do a study to determine what is the best location for the 21st century for the city of Kent for a second station. We have had studies in the past that included a broad countywide study. And one of the studies at that point in time, I believe is about 12 years ago, just indicated that the fire station should be located just north of the Fairchild intersection, and which is very, very close to what we have right now.
Right.
It's within a margin of response that is adequate. You know, that area is a very good location, I believe, because of all the major intersections there. We have Fairchild, we have the new Fairchild Bridge that gets us to North Water, Crane, Lake Street. We also get up to Twin Lakes very easily. We handle almost all the Kent City schools, and we handle from that station Davie headquarters. So I believe we have to keep in mind the location of what other building would be. It very well could be in that location, and council would have to make that decision long term. What do we do with that building then? If the studies show that it should be right where it is to keep response times low for our entire northern response district and western response district, then what do we do with that building then? Do we tear it down, or do we try to move it somewhere else to try and preserve that building? And that's something I think it's going to have to be looked at in the future. But you know, we have to, I think we owe it to the residents to find out what is the quickest response to the majority of residents. And right now we have the Franklin Township contract we've had for my entire lifetime, and here at the fire department, we have to keep that in mind as well. You know, that Twin Lakes area. So.
Is there further from the audience? Okay, I'll go back to council. Garrett, you haven't spoken yet.
Yeah, I would move that we move forward with the pitch roof.
I'll second that.
Discussion, Garrett?
Yeah. You know, it pains me to have to address this in this way, but I think, and I think first I'd say the fact that it garners so much discussion and debate is a testament to everybody's commitment in the administration and on council and the community to maintaining historical value and historical buildings. But I think what it really boils down to is efficient use of space, efficient use of time, and efficient use of money, and the efficiency of safety. You know, we clearly need a new police station, as Dr. Treckle mentioned, right? The sad thing is our firemen are stuck in a bad location, and at the pace of government, realistically, we're not going to see another building there for 5 to 10 years or another fire station. And so to ask the people that save our brothers, our sisters, our neighbors, our grandmothers, our grandfathers, and our parents, and we ask them for that commitment to, and which they do every day in the most excellent fashion, and then to let them sleep in those dire conditions over there, that place is abysmal. It's horrible, right? It's disgraceful that we ask those people to do so much, and this is what we give them. So we have to put I think we have to give them the best that we can in a cost-efficient way, but I think we also owe it to them and the rest of the citizens to come up with a better solution in the time being. And the problem is that time frame is so long that we have to take this necessary action right now. And I just hope that we can somehow maintain some semblance of that historic building in maybe and that's just in name. So with that, I think this is the best option. And I've had conversations with countless people for countless hours about this, and I think ultimately this is the best decision to make.
Gwen, did you second?
Yeah, thank you. I'd just like to thank the city staff for putting together this presentation to really give us a comprehensive view of the timeline on this decision. I appreciate your efforts to be great stewards for taxpayers in the community. I think that our community priority is absolutely, taxpayer dollars, and most certainly our firefighters who are working very hard as first responders. We need to make sure that they're in safe, dry conditions, and we should do this as quickly as possible. So if May 18th is it, I think by all means we should get moving on it right away. So thank you very much.
Further from council, John?
Yeah, when we made the first change to the original building years ago, it then was not the original building. And now these additions are changing the outside structure even more. So we really don't have the original building. And, I look at it like an upgrade. We're not doing something ugly to the building. We're making the building look good. And the building is still there to look at. So you got to compromise, I think, if anything. But yeah, there's no question it needs a roof. And, knowing a little bit about construction, I think I can think of a lot of flat roofs that I've had that I've changed to sloped roofs and pitched roofs, and a lot I'd like to change. And well, I won't even say the other comment, because I was saying, you can't go around in 2021 and wear a 1950s hairdo. Sometimes it just looks out of place. And that building doesn't look out of place for its structure, but it won't look out of place with a pitched roof either, and it will be functional. And, if Paul Revere stopped there, it'd be one thing. But Revere didn't stop there. It has historical significance, but not great historical significance. So I think we're making the right decision for the taxpayers.
Further from council, Roger.
You're muted, Roger.
Sorry about that. I was interested in hearing Dr. Treckle's perspective on preservation and about the use of that fire station. Shame on me, for the first time since 1975 when I moved here, I actually got into that fire station to look at it. And I think a lot of people in the community they take things for granted. We take our public structures for granted. We don't get in and see what's really going on in there. And my first gut level reaction was, oh my God, we should tear this whole thing down and build an efficient fire station. And I know it goes kind of against the idea of preservation. And I've lost sleep over this, because I really believe that there are certain things that may not be at the level of we need to preserve just to preserve it. And I think this is one of those things where we can't afford to build a new fire station right now. We don't have the land to build a new fire station. That would be a 15, 20-year process, the way things go in Kent, Ohio, as we all know. And we just can't predict the future. So I have such deep and abiding respect for all of the architectures. I mean, as people as well as our architects, as Doug knows, and as Dave Summers now, who I hold in high esteem. But in the end, we need to have a fire station. We need to have this fire station up, functional. For those of you who haven't gotten through it yet, I recommend that you go through it. We need to stop that water invasion into that building. I am concerned about structural integrity of the ceiling because of that. But in the big scheme of things, I think we need to move forward. So that's why I'm going to support it.
Further?
Mike?
Yes, Robin.
Yeah. First, I want to congratulate Doug. Doug makes you think about things you might not ordinarily have thought of when thinking about issues of architectural review and understanding. And so I want to congratulate him on that. He made me kind of rethink a couple of things. But at the end of the day, it comes down to me on the overall efficiencies and safeties that apply to this community. And I think that when we're talking about buildings and agencies in our community which deal with health and safety of the residents, we kind of have to view it in a different context. So I quite frankly agree with where Garrett was coming down, and Roger. At the end of the day, if you've been there, you've seen that building. When I was in there and that's been quite a while ago. It wasn't as, I think, deficient as it is now. I viewed it actually as very cute, if you can say that about a structure like that, a very kind of cute building that fit into the community well. I kind of often wonder too, if a pitched roof, I mean, it's not historical because of the way the building and the way that it was explained by earlier by Doug, but a pitched roof actually fits in the community better. But I certainly understand where Doug and others who are very close to the issue of architectural integrity are coming from. I just view this as different. It's a tough decision, but I think that we need to do the things that are in the best interest of the community. We're coming out of COVID. We're in financial difficulty and constraints. We have to be aware of that and aware of what our constituents are going to think and feel when we're addressing these matters. Tough decisions. We're charged with making those. I believe we're making one, but I believe it's the most logical avenue for us to take at this time.
Thank you, Robin. John.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, one thing that really has my attention, and that's the fact that Melanie said we have a locked-in price on this building. And we might be doing our residents more good than we actually know. Because I do know that rolled steel has went up over 30% in the last 4 months. Structural lumber has went up anywhere from 26% to 300%. So we don't know what kind of a ball of wax we'd be getting into if we had to refigure and rewrite these bids. It could scare you. It could really scare you. I have a friend that was had a lumber package that he didn't move on. It was $117,000 for a rough lumber package to build a house, and he stalled on it, had it refigured at $157,000, the same house. And that would happen to anything that's going on today. So we might be making a real smart decision here.
Further from council. Okay, got a motion seconded. Does anybody need a motion reread? I didn't think so. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Opposed? One abstention. 2 abstained.
Mr. Ryan?
Okay. Okay. Is that good, Jack? Okay, we go. So
Do we
with
have
that,
any opposed?
there was nobody opposed, correct?
Okay.
No.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the next issue for city property auction.
Yeah, this is the annual time where Melanie brings you some of the surplus property list and just asks for your authorization to let us either trade it in or sell it. So Melanie, I don't know what anything else you want to say?
No, that's pretty much what this is. We'll probably do it again in the fall because what we're doing right now is trying to get our large equipment in. And what we were able to do was garner some of the equipment that we had by trading it in for a lesser price on equipment. So that's why you'll see that we have several trade-ins this time and only 2 that will be going to auction.
Questions from council? Seeing none, anybody in the audience? Oh. Back to council?
Move to approve.
Who seconded it?
I'll second it, John.
Okay. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Boy, see how quick that goes.
Thank you.
We're going to do the extension of the park fee moratorium.
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
There you
Hey,
are.
hi everyone.
Hi ho.
Hello.
We met with our outside attorneys on our ordinance, and they actually think it's pretty good. and constitutional. But we do want to make a couple changes, and we're requesting the moratorium stay in place until August 30th so that we can bring you back a couple changes.
What was the date?
August 30th.
August, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there further questions from any?
So, yeah, I get a question.
Robin, you have a question?
No.
Oh, you lit up. I'll go to Roger then.
Are you asking for a motion to just extend, just merely extend it to August 30th?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great.
Further discussion? Anybody in the audience? Back to council.
I'll move to make that motion, Mike, to extend the moratorium till August 30th, 2021.
Seconded by Heidi. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That'll be doing it for the finance committee.
Hey, Mike, before
Yes.
we leave that,
Sure.
maybe it's out of order, but just for everyone's benefit, you see the name Angela Manley on your screen? That's
I do.
our new parks director. So she's joining us for the first time. I feel bad because I actually haven't seen her since her interview. I've been too busy, so welcome her, please.
Welcome, man.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much.
Hi.
I seen the name up on the screen and I was going to say what to do with you. So
she picked a good meeting to come to, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
The first. All right, with that, I'll get rid of the finance committee.
Yeah, well, we have the community development, and there was coughing and noise. At what position is Angela going to take here, or she's just a guest, or?
Parks and Rec.
She's your new Parks and Rec director. So
okay,
she replaced John Idoni. So she's the next successor, and very excited. And I guess we've said it before, but I personally I'm excited about her, but I'm also really excited that Melanie can go back to her day job now. She was doing double duty, amongst a few other things, as you've seen tonight. We've been keeping her busy, but she did a great job as the acting director. So thank you, Melanie, for everything, and welcome, Angela.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here.
Well, that's good, Dave. I knew I'd get a better introduction out of you. With that being said, we have Tom Wilkie going to go over some of the updates on the Dora program.
Sure, and good evening, everybody. Just a quick reminder, City Council established the Dora back in July of 2021, and it will stay in effect until you take action to do something different. So some people actually thought the Dora ended over the winter and it had to be restarted, and that's not the case. The Dora will stay in effect until you do something different with it. I'm going to be referring to a short 4-page presentation that was included in your council communications. First page is feedback about the Dora. And I stayed in contact with the health departments and the police departments throughout this, and there have been no negative incidents at all related to the Dora as reported by the health or police. So, no excessive congregation with Dora drinks in people's hands, no disorderly conduct associated with Dora drinks. It's really been a non-event for both the police and the health department. And that's a good thing. That's not to say we haven't had disorderly conduct. It just wasn't related to the Dora. But and then businesses have indicated it wasn't a true game changer last year. Obviously, they still had tremendous financial hardship, but having the Dora did generate some additional revenue for them that was important. We sold, we're guessing, about 75,000 Dora drinks at $5 a pop. That's over $300,000 worth of additional sales that might not have occurred if people didn't have that opportunity to purchase a Dora drink. The other thing it did is it gave a lot of businesses the opportunity to have, quote unquote, a free outdoor patio, where they could use the city sidewalk program to have tables and chairs outside their business and let customers take not only food out to those tables as before, but now with the Dora, they could also take Dora beverages out there. And so they didn't have to go through and don't have to go through the process of putting a fence up or going to liquor control and extending their liquor license. They were able to do that for free, and it enhanced the experience for their customers. Obviously, we have not had any large events since the Dora was put in place, due to the pandemic. So we don't really know what's going to happen. And I'll talk about that in a few minutes when we do have a large outdoor event. But we have had a couple of small events since the Dora has been in place, including the Chocolate Walk back in February and the Putt Around downtown just a couple of weeks ago. And just based on observation and talking to the participants, and we're only talking a couple of hundred participants for both events. But having the Dora, it really seemed to enhance the experience for them. They really seemed to enjoy getting a beer at one of the establishments and carrying around with them, whether they were putting or whether they were getting chocolate. And this Friday is the day we're going to close Franklin Avenue and put the dining tables out on the street, keep the street closed all summer long. And we found out last summer and fall that having the Dora really enhanced that dining experience and that outdoor experience by allowing people to have alcoholic beverages at those tables as well. So really no negative feedback that I've picked up on. I'll give you folks an opportunity at the end if you have heard anything from your constituents, but everything's been positive so far. A couple of minor changes that we made primarily through Main Street Kent is we did make more durable recyclable containers available. The ones we started out with, the cardboard ones, proved not to be very durable. And so businesses were given the opportunity to purchase plastic ones, and many did. We did provide insulated cups for hot outdoor beverages during the winter, and many people took advantage of that. And a lot of the businesses were very creative with the drinks that they decided to use almost exclusively for the Dora, and put signs out for it, and really had some fun with it. So that was nice to see. And then one business was added to the Dora when it opened, and that was the Northwater Brewing Company. When they opened in November, and then are now part of the Dora as well. Their license is modified. And then one change we're making this year is we're going to introduce a larger cup. The cup that we used last year and we'll continue to use for wine and for mixed drinks was the 12-ounce cup. And what we found was many of the bars downtown and restaurants have a standard 16-ounce pour for beer. And so they asked us to get a 16-ounce cup for this year, which we found a couple of new sponsors, Labatt Blue and Cigar City Brewing, to help us out with the cost of those cups. And so this year we'll have a 16-ounce cup for beer sales.
John, I have a question. John.
Crazy.
Tom, was the Northwater Brewing Company in the original boundaries for the Dora?
It was, yeah. We anticipated their opening. Thank you. And then speaking of that, and as far as the future of the Dora, there is a possibility we may come to you and ask for an expansion of the boundaries. The Tiptons that are opening the Bell Tower Brewery on Gogler have indicated they'd be interested in being included in the Dora. And the only way that could happen is if council approved a change to the boundaries. We're not doing that tonight. We're not asking you that tonight, but possibly late summer, we may come back to you and ask you to consider that. And we'll see what happens at that time. It'll be your decision.
Tracy, you have another
Yeah, I
question?
just wanted to throw it out there in advance that the bike shop on Lake Street wants to be included in the Dora district also.
Thank you, Alec.
Just to let
We
everybody
did
know
hear
for the
that.
future.
And, what we would probably like to do is make that same change if we do make the change to include the Bell Tower Brewery. We could do it at the same time. And then I kind of finished up with 3 questions. What will the impact of the Dora be on large events? We're still not going to have quite the same large events this year that we've had in the past, but a couple are coming up that are larger than what we had last year. We anticipate having a Blues Fest on July 17th. So that'll be the first outdoor event that will have the Dora in effect. And I personally think it's going to be a great addition to that particular event, but we'll see. And we'll ask the police to monitor it for us, and we'll obviously do our own observations. And I believe Main Street Kent was just talking to Joan the other day about doing a Wizardly World weekend at the end of July. And it'd be interesting again to see what kind of a impact having the Dora beverages will have on that type of event. And we're also looking at the JCs doing the craft beer fest in August or potentially September, and then Main Street Kent may do the Oktoberfest in late September. So all those will be experiments as we go forward. And then, the other question, and I'm making a big assumption here, is that there will be a post-pandemic time, that the pandemic will end. Will businesses want to continue the Dora when the pandemic ends? There were some people that were ambivalent before. I haven't done a large sampling, but the business owners I've talked to recently about that have indicated they would like the Dora to continue even if all restrictions are lifted and occupancies are back to where they were before. They look at it as an enhancement to downtown Kent. That's how I look at it as well. It's an additional amenity and an additional reason for people to come to our city. And then also, will the city, meaning specifically City Council and the mayor, want to continue the Dora after the pandemic? And that will, I assume, primarily be based on feedback from your constituents and what kind of feedback they give you. So really, the great news about the Dora is that it has had very little news over the past 8 months that it's been in effect. And mostly it's just been an enhancement to our downtown.
Do you have any, Heidi?
Yeah, has there been any kind of official encouragement of pop-up musicians, like street musicians or musicians at Dan Smith Park? Just because I know that that's happened in the past for us. We'd go down, walk around, that just sort of enhanced the experience of the Dora. And if there's official, encouragement, do we not do? I would hope that we're not actively discouraging.
We haven't been discouraging them. We also haven't encouraged them based on advice from the health department last year, because that does encourage congregation when you have entertainment. Now, going forward, restrictions have already been loosened. And it's possible that Main Street Kent and or other organizations may approach the city about having, not only pop-up musicians, but small concerts at Hometown Plaza and elsewhere, Dan Smith Park.
Yeah, I would like that a lot.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes, thank you. I just want to add on, Tom, if you don't mind. I spoke with Heather Malarchuk from Main Street Kent, and I do understand that she's hired 2 local teens from Kent Roosevelt High School to do our cleaning up Franklin avenue. We had a tremendous amount of interest. We had a lot of kids who were interested. So, Garrett, if you've got other jobs, if the city has other jobs looking for some of our high schoolers, there's certainly some hardworking kids out there that are interested. So I just thought I'd add that to your presentation, Tom. Thanks.
That was a question, right?
Sorry.
Dave, you
You
had,
should talk, John.
okay,
Yeah, John, I was just going to say that following up to the question about the events, we did discuss this today with Joan, actually. And what she continues to reiterate is events can happen under the governor's orders as long as people stay apart. And so that's the challenge, because she says she continues to get a lot of questions. And it's clear now that the governor's office is not going to issue festival sort of party specific regulations. They're going to leave that up to the communities to apply. She seems to be stuck on the no more than 10 people together thing. That's what's the real challenge to get over or around. But she's also the first to tell you that it's possible, it's doable. It just takes some new work. And I think, as Tom mentioned, Heather has been talking with Joan, and they're trying to figure out ways of doing just that, still being able to let people come down and have, like a festival, a new normal festival.
Mr. Mayor?
Just a few things. I know none of you know that I go down there and enjoy these kind of things, but I do. But if you were down there for the putt around golf that the Main Street put on down there, you seen families walking around and they had their yellow bands on with their cups, whatever the Dora they chose to drink, and it worked so well. And you really didn't see any disorderly down there. And I go down there all the time and try to be part of it to witness just what it is. And I do realize the bigger cups are needed because my Long Island iced tea doesn't fit in a 12-ounce cup. It's got to be bigger. But the one point I want to say is that there is no Heritage Festival at any given time down there this summer, but we are shooting the fireworks off on the 26th of June, and we're anticipating an impact on the Dora on Franklin Avenue for that event. As you know, the chamber has the fireworks, but we pay for them. But that's going to be a good event on the 26th of June. Hopefully the word will get out and people will gather downtown, and they'll mingle and celebrate, and they'll do their social distancing, and maybe that'll be one of the good times for people to start getting out in the public.
Mr. Abram? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Jerry, I received a notification from I don't know if it was Main Street or the Chamber of Commerce that the Heritage Fest was going to occur. It was just going to be a different type of Heritage Fest with music and no?
No.
Wow.
There's no festival whatsoever. We're trying at the same time on the 26th. We're working with Woodsies and that, maybe trying to get some music downtown just during that period of time with the fireworks and that.
Yeah, that's what it said.
Night.
It said fireworks and music. It was but nothing else.
There is no festival whatsoever.
Okay, gee. I thought I got a blast. So
anybody else from council? Garrett?
Thanks, John. I would just echo Heidi's comments about, downtown and music, and the fact is, like, residents are being careful and being socially responsible. And I think it comes down to the fundamental question of, does government tell people what to do, or does it give them the framework within which they have to work? And I think it should be the latter, where, we need to support our businesses. We need to make the downtown inviting. Dora is certainly a huge asset and help to that. But, this past Sunday, a local band did a pop-up City of Invention. I think that's the name. But and I walked down there with my wife, and you know what? There is enough people out that you realize people want to go out, and they were also being socially responsible in a hometown plaza there. So I think we need to provide the means for people to interact socially, and as opposed to being restrictive and saying this isn't what we have to do. Look, everybody can get a shot right now, right? And if you don't want a shot, that's your choice. But you know what? Your choice shouldn't restrict me and everybody else that wants to go out and do something and be social and be responsible. So I think the less restrictive and the less rules that the city tries to impose upon people, the better off we're going to be, and the better off our businesses are going to be. That's not only socially, but financially.
And thanks for your question. Any more?
I was following up on everybody else's question.
Yeah.
Anybody from the audience? Thank you, Tom. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks, Tom.
Mr. Mayor, you want me to call the streets and sidewalks and utility?
Fine.
I understand that Mr. Bowling is on and is going to speak to us about Franklin and Erie Street licensing and the agreement.
Sure. Thank you, Roger. The developer who's working on the property at the southeast corner of Erie and Franklin is coming to you to construct a outdoor patio, operate it and maintain it. With their construction, they're going to be putting in a curb extension, a bump out. They're going to basically improve the pedestrian walkability in that area and make a more active street. So following up Tom's discussion on the Dora, this sort of fits right in. So we looked at their plans and what they're recommending, and we don't see any problems with them. We would recommend that you approve it.
Okay, Heidi.
Yeah, so what are we talking about here? I haven't heard about this project. This is something new, correct?
Well, it's actually in construction now. You see the walls going up on Franklin and Erie Street.
Franklin and Erie. That used to be like an empty lot.
It used to be mugs.
Oh,
very empty.
Never mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, never mind. I was thinking it was a different property.
Are you okay, Heidi? You got your answer?
I'm fine.
Tracy.
Yeah, I was just curious, is that gonna go into the street? It looks like it's really far into the street. Is that gonna make those turns any harder, or?
No, so it's going to be very similar to the rest of downtown as far as the curb extensions go. That area is sort of dead space because if you made that turn now, you'd run into but the cars don't get to park all the way up to the intersection. So instead of basically just leaving excess pavement that's not used, it would make a space for outdoor dining. It very similar if you think of Laziz's and how it sits at the corner of Erie and Peister, it would be similar to that.
Other questions from council? So Jim, if I understand this correctly, you're really just giving us a report and then the person will be coming to council at some point, or?
No, we're asking for your approval so to come to council in 2 weeks so that they can execute the license agreement, because this would be a permanent one, not a temporary one.
Is there anyone?
I got one more question.
Yes, Tracy.
Did we add or lose any parking spaces there, or is it just the same?
Same amount of parking spaces.
Okay.
So.
And actually improve the handicap accessibility from the handicap spot too.
Good.
Go ahead, Heidi.
Well, now that I'm oriented to this, which building and which spot we're talking about, yeah, are you ready for a motion?
Well, is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak to this first? Robin, I saw your light up. Would you still have a comment?
No,
okay.
I had no question.
Well, seeing no one from the audience, Tracy or Heidi, would you like to make a motion?
I would like to authorize the license agreement for the outdoor seating area.
I'll second that.
With the emergency.
With the emergency? Okay, Jack, you seconded it with the emergency?
Yep.
Okay, any other comments?
No, I think it's totally consistent with what we've allowed other businesses to do. I think it's kind of also a nice way to kind of create maybe a safer crossing at that street, like we're doing on North Water. I just think it'll be a nice addition.
Any other comments? Yeah, John.
I think the nice thing is that they're paying for it. And remember, on North Water, all I wanted was white lines.
Are there any more questions? I didn't hear a question there, John. I just got to remind you that. Hearing no other questions, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. All right, Mr. Mayor, that's all we have.
All right, because we revised the agenda tonight, we need to go on board of control. Mr. Rohr?
Yep, thank you, Mayor. So Garrett and Mike, I think Garrett's still here. Yep, you're still there. We've got minutes from April 24th that I need a motion on.
Move to approve.
Second?
I will move the motion, or
You'll second?
therefore, I'll second, yes.
Okay, so on the minutes, we've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Great. Now we've got 4 on page 1 and then 2 on the back. And one of them includes the Metis contract for the West Side Fire Station roof. That's how we did this at the end, in case we didn't want to assume you were going to pass it. We wanted to see how you voted. Now that you passed it, we're going to go.
Dave, I may have to abstain from one of those.
Okay.
I'll have to abstain from issue 3.
Number 3.
Yes.
So do you want to do the other ones first? Do
Yes.
1, 2,
So
1,
I'll move 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion on those items? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed?
I'll move item 3.
Okay, and I'll second that. Any discussion, Garrett, on that? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And I'll abstain.
And 1 abstention, no opposed. And with that, thank you, gentlemen. We have concluded our work on the board control. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, everybody.
I think that's all we have for you tonight. We will see you on, Jack, you got something?
No, I'm just waving
Saying
goodbye.
bye.
Happy
Saying
Cinco de
goodbye.
Mayo.
Goodbye.
How about this?
Goodbye.
That's all
Bye,
we have.
Robin.
We'll see you on the
Take
next
care. Have a great.
council meeting.
Hey, Robin, it's great to have you back on
Yep.
here. I'm glad
Yeah,
you're feeling
yes.
better.
Yep. Take care of yourself, Robin.
Happy Cinco de Mayo.